Monday, December 11th to order. Thank you. Invocation given by Mr. Kenmer and pledge allegiance by Mr. Ashburn.
Almighty God, in this season of Advent, we come before you as a waiting people and a thankful people. We thank you for this country that you have allowed us to live in, this state, this city. Be with us always. Be with this mayor and council this evening as they go about the business of the people. Lead, guide, and direct them. These things we ask in Jesus Christ's name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, first thing tonight, Mr. Ben Farmer with Farmer Morgan for the Willow Street Corridor Project. Go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, everyone. I am Ben Farmer with Farmer Morgan. We are the firm that was selected to conduct your Willow Street Corridor Plan in conjunction with PM Environmental and your EPA funds. I am here this evening to review the document in brief and then provide copies of about a 60-70% complete document so that you have enough time, in addition to that charrette period back at the end of July, the first part of August, where we had those series of public meetings that I think some of you participated in. This kind of gives you that additional time to look at the document, make sure things are going in the direction that it's intended to for the Willow Street Corridor. So I'm going to kind of walk through that, the way the document is structured, and more about different sections in the document, if you will. If there's something of interest, please stop me and we can discuss that. After that, I'll take any questions or during, and then I'll hand out the draft copies to be marked up by you and then shared back with us through Mayor McCamey. Probably in just a few weeks, we'll try to decide what a reasonable time frame is, maybe right at the end of the year or the first part of the year, if that's appropriate, or within 2 weeks, whatever you feel is best after you've kind of looked at the document itself. So this is the acknowledgments page, and I'm going to go through almost every page, so we'll do it in brief. This is the table of contents. So you have an introduction section, a site analysis and context section, a vision section talking about the community workshop that was held, the goals and objectives that were identified by the community, development scenarios and connections. So looking at Willow Street Corridor, those brownfield sites that we were asked to test design scenarios on and look at the concepts that could go on those sites, as well as what it would take to begin to trigger that redevelopment to begin to take shape. And that was obviously from the public sector side within Willow Street Corridor itself. We have our findings, the goals, future actions, and the closing statement section, as well as an appendix that backs up kind of the information that was gathered during public involvement. So this is the project area, the team that was involved, and the individuals and their professions. The region, and again, some of this doesn't have narrative or text along with it, so bear with us. The sections, this is kind of the early part that will be filled in later based off the other sections. This, again, is the introduction. Talk generally about the development scenarios, the findings, the goals and objectives. So in site analysis and context is where we begin to look at, from a regional perspective, where Scottsboro is located. Things that you already know and that I know, but other people that you may share this document with may not know. And that can come from individuals that may be interested in redevelopment itself in a private sector standpoint, or from funding entities to help begin to move particular components along within the project. We look at everything from population and graphically beginning to represent that, market study, housing analysis, the foundings, history, culture, all those things that matter to who you are and why you're here today. Regional location. Let me back up. This is, in addition to the other things that are important, this is a soils analysis, begins to look at geology, that looks at, that feeds into the discussion of stormwater and doing stormwater analysis and impact along Willow Street. And we'll look at a very brief discussion on the catchments that push stormwater into the Willow Street area and along that corridor. And the whole idea would be, how can we use any redevelopment, either within the corridor itself or on private properties, to begin to manage that stormwater that's coming through those catchments. So how do we begin to clean it and slow it down? So it's soils analysis explaining what soil types are there. This is, again, this regional context section within the site analysis. Drive times, as well as location, street names, traffic counts you can see there in orange, around 7,000, I believe, 10,000 along Willow Street. What's in your community, employers, events, all those things that can be updated and we can add to the document. So when you have your draft, and we'll share a digital mayor as well if that would be helpful, but if comments and things, just literally write them on there, take a picture of them if you want to kind of hold them, get them back to the mayor. We'll go through and either, discuss further what it is or why we made that decision or that recommendation, or begin to add that into the document itself. The vision, how we get to the public process and how we move through that public process and why it's so important during that design charrette. The visioning maps and the questions that go along with that and the responses from the community that help guide the design process, what the community would like to see along Willow Street in that redevelopment, as well as what the market will help begin to support. So it's not just a broader vision, it's also about, okay, you want a hotel, what does your hotel analysis say potentially could begin to be supported? Consolidated vision map, so taking these maps that were completed and beginning to summarize those graphically, goals and objectives, development scenarios and connections. Well, I jumped a couple of pages. Okay. So I talked about the catchments and stormwater. You can look at the 4 catchments and basins that are generating stormwater either through Willow Street or along the edge of it. We begin to describe those, look at the volumes of those, and the stormwater impacts within the corridor itself. And then we begin to make a series of recommendations for interventions based on certain storm types of what could begin to happen within the right-of-way to take some of that stormwater pressure off the private sector. I know you have seen a lot of developments where you've asked those developers, probably the big box stores, to manage their stormwater on site. In some cases for redevelopment, that gets harder, and if that does happen, it often pushes that stormwater management right in front along the street. And what you really want to have is that building pulled up to the street. So trying to figure out how to take on everybody's stormwater within that corridor begins to allow some flexibility in development. Beginning to look at land parcels and use types within the sites that we were asked to look at specifically along the corridor itself. And then analysis of the corridor, everything from just general ADA concepts to connectivity along Willow Street from one end to the other, as well as the specific sites that we were asked to evaluate and test. Existing street sections along the street, as well as a map that illustrates where those street sections were taken. Beginning to look at graphically through perspectives, digital renderings in this case, of a street section at the bottom of what could be proposed, as well as what that would look like at that specific intersection. And then also dispensing with overhead utilities. And so not only do we develop the concepts and propose those, we also place in cost estimates for what we think it will take to begin to do those things. And they're very large numbers, which I think you would expect. We are generally discussing, and we'll list out in the document, sources for taking on a chunk of those items for how to begin to deal with those, and grant funds, obviously. And we have those, and one of the top of the list will be a raise grant, and we'll share some more information with the city about that. We talk about implementation. Again, the development scenarios, those specific parcels that we looked at, the total acreage of those parcels, as well as the development scenario itself that took on from the visioning what was listed out that the citizens would like to see within the corridor. It was definitely more connectivity along Willow Street with the rest of Willow Street, as well as the adjacent neighborhoods and into downtown. So there's a development scenario that has specifics. The narrative talks about the specifics of that scenario, what's proposed within it, the total square footages, as well as what the intent would be from that design. And here's another development scenario that begins to capitalize on that. You have a perspective rendering that begins to illustrate that as well. A third scenario that begins to look at some of the similar principles, but how to block those out in square footages. I will say that these are design tests. They're probably not the end-all, be-all of what that redevelopment will take shape of. However, it does begin to explore those ideas that came from the public meetings, as well as begin to test those at a scale of what will fit on that site, and tell you how many square feet you would get and how much parking you would begin to need to make that work. So it's one thing to put a 60-room hotel on a site. It's another to put a 60-room hotel on a site, plus the parking required to make it function. And then the findings themselves, short-term, long-term goals, future actions, and this is where the funding sources will fall into, and then closing statement. Then the appendix, sign-in sheets, survey information, hotel information, things that we use, documents that we use to support either our assumptions or decisions that we begin to make. Okay. Do I have any questions? Yes, sir.
Anyone have any questions, Mr. Farmer? Mr. Farmer, on any of this?
Okay, and you have my business card, my email address, and please feel free to take time to email me something that's bad, something that's great. We take both, and we look forward to hearing back from you through the link. I'll pass these out real quick, and then if there's anything else that comes up. We appreciate the opportunity to work for the city. It's been a very interesting and challenging project.
Thank you, Vince. Appreciate it.
Mr. Farmer, we thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you.
We appreciate all your work with this.
You don't need me anymore.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
All right, we're going to move on to number 2, tourism grant application from Scottsboro High School basketball. I guess this will be the Dom Webb Classic. Mr. Nelson?
First of all, thank you for what you do for our city, each of you. I know it's a thankless job lots of times. We filled out a tourism grant for a tournament that we're hosting here in Scottsboro the 27th, 28th, and 29th of this month. We have close to 30 teams that will be visiting us on those 3 days, bringing fans and spectators. 4 of those teams are from out of state. 22 of those teams are from outside of Jackson County. About half of those will be staying in our hotels here in town. And of course, all of them will be shopping in our shops, using our gas stations as well as our eateries here in town. We're asking for the amount of $5,000. Most of that cost will go to officials, which will basically be what that bill is $5,000 for our tournaments. We don't ask for entry fees to the tournament, and that's one way that we've been able to grow this tournament and have this many teams. It's probably the largest one that we've ever had. So we're just asking for a little bit of help for us bringing this number of people into the city.
Okay. Anyone have any questions for Mr. Nelson on this? No questions? And we'll go ahead and move that to tonight's meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, number 3, discuss the ordinance 653, amending ordinances 589, 569-1, 534, and 486. This will be fixing the salaries of the mayor and council members. I'll just handle this myself tonight. I'd hate to call on the mayor to talk about it. So, during my time, I guess me and Mr. Ashburn, the mayor's salary hasn't been changed as far as a vote by our council. And each year we've gave employees raises, and they've kind of caught up. And some have actually tackled over the mayor here. So we, during budget time, spoke on this and looked at changing the mayor's salary. So this will not happen now. It would happen next term. Of course, with the mayor's salary, you can't change it until there's an election, and it has to be done, I think it's within 6 months before the election, though. So we're bringing this to you tonight, and this could be the next mayor and council, actually, would see this. So it'd be after the election before it goes into effect. So with this, there will be a $3,000 a year raise for the years of 2024, 2025, 2026, and 2027. And of course, it's amending all the other ordinances because, as you know, the council's salary is affected by the mayor's salary. The council receives 15% of the mayor's salary. And this also, and the council also, the president receives an extra $100 a month to cover what they do, and the pro temp gets an extra $50 a month. So in your packet, you'll see what we discussed during the budget time. So if anyone has any questions or comments on that? Nothing? All right, then we'll move that to tonight's meeting also. All right, number 4, discuss the budget amendment for retail strategies. And Mr. Wheeler's not here, so I will throw him under the bus. This was left out of our budget. This is the 3rd year of this contract with Retail Strategies. There is an amount of $20,000 left to be paid from the city to Retail Strategies. So we will have to do a budget amendment to finish up that contract. And of course, next summer, we will renegotiate if we decide to keep them on board. So you see in your packet, the total cost, of course, is $40,000, with $5,000 coming from Goose Pond, $5,000 from CDA, $5,000 from DRA, and $5,000 for the chamber for this contract. But $20,000 would come from the city. So anyone have any questions or comments on that? Okay. Then we'll move that to tonight's meeting also. And number 5, discuss the budget amendment for Roseberry Creek weed maintenance. Normally, I think they only get to spray about twice a year, and this year they've got to the 3rd time, so we're going to have an extra payment that needs to be made to cover that. And you'll see in your packet, this amount of $1,845, and this is something we split with water, sewer, and gas. This year, of course, we took the first time, they took the second, and we're getting the third, so hopefully they're getting the first next time. Correct? So, anyways, so this is a 3rd treatment, and it's $1,845 that need to be approved to pay for that payment. So, any questions or comments on that?
Was this budgeted, this 3rd one, or did it come out of excess?
This will have to come out of excess.
Okay.
Since they got to a 3rd one. They normally don't get a 3rd one each year, but I think there's a lot of spraying needs to be done. But that's another conversation. Okay. So no other comments. We'll move that to tonight's meeting also. So that'll conclude the work session. Give me just 1 minute and we'll start the meeting. So we're adjourned. Y'all got anything before I start the meeting?
I'm gonna die now.
You got anything before I start? You got anything before I start the meeting?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. We'll call this council meeting Monday, December 11th to order. We'll dispense with formalities. Ms. Phillips, will you do the roll call?
Mr. Dahl?
Here.
Ms. Tolliver?
Here.
Mr. Ashburn?
Here.
Mr. Bailey?
Here. All right, we'll move to adopt the agenda. I'll read over it since we just moved stuff to it tonight. Number 1 will be the tourism grant application from Scottsboro High School basketball for the Don Webb Classic. Number 2 will be the ordinance 653, fixing the salaries of the mayor and council. Number 3 will be the budget amendment for retail strategies. And number 4 will be the budget amendment for the Roseberry Creek weed maintenance. So do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion on that? Hearing none, we'll vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The agenda's adopted. You'll see in your packet minutes from previous two meetings. So do I have a motion to approve those minutes?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion on the minutes? Hearing none, we'll vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes are approved. There's no old business, so we'll go straight into the new business. Number one, tourism grant application from Scottsboro High School basketball for the Don Webb Classic. Do I have a motion on the floor for that?
Mr. President, I make a motion, we give the high school basketball $2,000.
Have a motion for $2,000. There's my second. Any discussion on that? Hearing none, we'll vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's approved. Number two, ordinance 653, fixing the salaries of the mayor and council. Do I have a motion to approve this ordinance?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion on it? Hearing none, we'll vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Three, budget amendment for retail strategies. This will be in the amount of $20,000 that would come out of excess sales tax. Do I have a motion to approve that?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion on that?
The only discussion I have, I think retail strategies have proven themselves for the money that we have paid the last couple of years.
I believe so too. Thank you for that. Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Number four, a budget amendment for Roseberry Creek weed maintenance. This amount of $1,845 that would come out of excess sales tax. Do I have a motion to approve that?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. That'll conclude the meeting. We'll go to no delegations tonight, so we'll go to reports. Mayor?
Mr. President, just a couple of things. One, working with the Bynum, Andy Skelton and the Bynum Foundation, our gateway sign was installed last week. There's still some work to be done, some landscaping and lights and that kind of thing, but I think it's a great addition. I've had a lot of response to it. It's up there on the hill below the Scott Cemetery, if you haven't seen it. It's kind of hard to miss, fortunately. So, but that is a project of the Bynum Foundation that has been working with us for the last couple of years to get that done. So we really appreciate what they've done. The only other thing I've got is to wish everyone a safe and happy and Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Hope everyone has a good one and stay safe. That's all I've got.
I appreciate you bringing up the sign. I know we've all had a lot of questions, people asking us about that because it didn't come through the council. The Bynum Foundation paid for that and was willing to do that. So if anybody asked you, that's where it came from. Yeah. So, Mr. Dahl.
I don't have anything. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Thank you. Ms. Tolliver?
Merry Christmas, everybody, and Happy New Year. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Mr. Ashburn?
Well, as a former EMA director, I was very disappointed over the weekend when we got into our first storm event. Luckily, we didn't have anything, but not far to the north of us, it got real bad. And with a lot of us with TV stations that we're able to carry, especially us folks that are streaming, the only option we've got is Chattanooga stations. And during this time of bad weather, I looked at the TV stations up in Chattanooga, and we weren't getting any kind of coverage. They weren't even scrolling anything on the bottom of it. Yep. And then I go online to the Huntsville stations, and the stuff that they were posting was like 2 hours old. So I think it's the council and individuals, you need to contact your officials as much as you can. Text, email them, and if you get any options to do any surveys, do that. We need to flood them. And not just now. If something's not done, we need to continuously rattle the chain. It's just not it's not good. It could be fatal. As that's one of the main sources of warning that people get is Huntsville TV station. And what is just makes no sense to me, the National Weather Service office is closest to us is in Huntsville, Alabama. And if you use Chattanooga, it's in Nashville. So a lot of it just don't make any sense to me. And I think our upper officials and anybody that listens needs to know that. The other thing that I've got, the parade and the Christmas party were both success. And I appreciate everybody's involved in that. So other than that, Merry Christmas.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. President, could I add a little bit
Yeah.
to what Mr. Said? As far as the issue with the television stations, that is a result of a Nielsen survey that they did the last 2 years. They missed, I think, 1 year, and they changed their methodology for the way they surveyed. They actually, as we've had conversations with Nielsen, with the FCC, we've had conversations with the television station managers from Huntsville. We're all working to get this corrected, but it's going to be a 6-month process at least to get this done. And even then, it won't be a reversal, it will be an amendment to let us go back to the Huntsville DMA. We're working together. The county actually has to be the applicant, so I'm working with Chairman Nance to get a letter to send to the FCC, and then the stations, the carriers have to apply as well. So we are working to do everything we can to get it turned around, but it is going to be a lengthy process. And again, it's based on Nielsen's survey. I question the data. Matter of fact, they even admitted that they did not survey a lot of Scottsboro when they surveyed it, and we've got the highest population center in the county. And distance, there's 5 factors that we have to address, and I think we've got a good case. So we will continue to work on that.
One other thing on that, I heard that North Alabama Electric Co-op was going to discontinue their cable service.
Correct. The end of this
All you'll
month.
be able to get with them is their internet, and they will either have to use some other means to get TV. If they go streaming like a lot of us have, they will be in the same boat that we are.
Well, they already are. They already are. So,
Hopefully, no one's going to die because the Nielsen Corporation and the federal bureaucrats of the FCC don't understand and haven't paid attention to local circumstances. But if someone does, the death's on them.
You can, thank you, y'all. All right, just remind everybody, this is the last meeting of December. We will not meet again till January 8th. Will be a work session and meeting that night. Then the next week's a holiday, so January 22nd, we'll do the same thing, work session and meeting. I want to thank each one of you coming out. Thank the council. I really appreciate all the work. The Christmas party was a success, I believe, and I thank everybody who put that together. That was really nice. So thank y'all. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. We'll see you next year. So I have a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
We'll vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We're adjourned.